Welcome back to Taking Stock. Now, Life Partners Holdings, this stock is up more than 60% in the last year. The insurance company also announced a 5-for-4 split earlier this month. That amounts to about a 20% increase in the stock per shareholder. And another stock split, well, it might be in store. We'll find out a little bit more. Here to talk about the stock and the company, we have the CEO, and he happens to be the largest shareholder in the company, Brian Pardo. Brian, welcome to the program. Appreciate you coming in. First of all, for people that don't really understand the business of Life Partner Holdings, explain a little bit about the business and your relationship to the insurance policies.
Our business is really very simple. It's called a transfer for value, and as most people don't realize this, but they can sell their life insurance policies. And so people who need money and no longer want to pay premiums and maybe can't afford to pay premiums, especially older citizens, can actually, instead of just letting their policy lapse, they can sell them. We, in turn, are experts at buying policies for our base of clients, and so we buy them and we hold them and pay them. And we hold the policy, and then when it matures, a nice way of saying they've passed away, then our investors get the death benefit.
Now let me just step back just for a second, because when you talk about people having life insurance policies, it always makes me think that they've got some equity in those policies. I'm reminded of the movie It's a Wonderful Life, where Jimmy Stewart only has this $10,000 life insurance policy with a little bit of equity in it. Yeah. How much equity typically do you require in these policies?
Well, they don't have to have any equity in it. But if they had equity in it, they would get that out. First that comes out, they would take that. And
that would be a dollar for dollar?
Yes, it's theirs. It's theirs. And then we would pay them, depending on their health and age, anywhere from 13 to 30% of the face value of the policy. We only buy policies from people that are in their later 70s, but we buy policies between $1 and $10 million. So the people that sell their policies, especially people that have been hurt in the market in general, or maybe don't have as much money to live on as they thought, they're afraid they're going to outlive their money, is a way for them to pick up a substantial amount of liquidity.
Now, how do you generate the cash in order to continue to pay the premiums? Because I'm assuming that once you buy the life insurance policies, the individual gets a lump sum payment.
That's right.
But you need to continue to pay the premium for the life of the policy.
That's right.
Former policyholder.
Right. Actually, we represent a group of over 20,000 high net worth investors that we're actually acting as agent on their part. When they buy the policy or a piece of the policy, when they buy that, they also put into escrow and trust enough money to pay the premiums for the life of the policy.
Now, what about, as you say, this is high net worth individuals participating. What about institutional money? Have you seen institutional money come into this market?
We ourselves have done some institutional transactions, but and several $100 million worth of, to give you an idea of how much. But the institutions came into the market very heavily until we had the meltdown. And then they all went to the sidelines. And a lot of our competitors who used institutional money fell sort of into that same trap. I'm 66 and I'm very conservative, and my parents, when I grew up, always told me about the Great Depression and how to save and don't borrow money because you don't need and stuff like that. So I'm pretty conservative. So we do not borrow money. Life Partners does not borrow money. Our thing is particularly high net worth investors that have the money to invest. They're not leveraging it, but they're going to make a much higher than market return, and it's going to be very safe because it's not correlated to any of the other market indices.
Now, with life insurance, there is also a tax benefit, or there is a tax benefit if indeed that policy pays off to, let's say, a beneficiary. It's supposed to be a tax-free distribution.
Well, for the beneficiary it is, but in our case, since it's called transfer for value, where we've actually purchased it, we don't get that benefit.
Okay, so that would be a benefit that only exists if indeed you're the holder and you have named a beneficiary.
That's right.
Tell me what you're doing in terms of viatical settlements, because I know that that's another area of the business that doesn't necessarily have an age determination. That unfortunately has to do with people with some kind of terminal illness.
We did a fairly large number of viatical settlements back in the early 90s, but quite frankly, we just ran through the market. We just ran out of people that needed that help. And there was controversy to what we call the viatical market. Some of that was deserved, and some of it wasn't. Two sides to every story, you know. But by and large, it helped a lot of people who needed help and who had nowhere else to get it. You know, when you're my age and you look at people that are dying and are 34 years old, that's kind of scary. And they don't have an estate or a way to survive, you know. But that market is largely dried up and gone away. And so we exclusively do, 99% of our transactions are life settlements, but it's grown enormously in the last 3 or 4 years. We're, I like to say, an 18-year overnight success story because really our growth was very slow.
Now, you founded the company.
Yes, in 1991, and we introduced the asset class in 1997. But it was very slow for the institutions to pick it up. I mean, I talked to all the institutions up here on Wall Street, believe me, every one of them. They were all busy doing something else at the time, and weren't too interested in what we had to say. So we just went to the retail market and said, look, I talked to high net worth individuals, financial planners, people like that, and they were interested. They said, yes, this is simple and straightforward, and it's not correlated to these other investments.
Well, stock split, maybe.
No, for sure.
No, you're going to do the 5 for 4, but what about another one? You can't tell me.
Say.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. Brian Pardo, thank you very much for coming and talking about Life Partners Holdings. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you again.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.